which is going to be used with the adults and the schools as well, putting out robust, posters. As you move out into the country, you rarely see any indication that anti-corruption is being publicized in the whole country. Even right now, if we were to go downtown, you want to see that anti-corruption is being talked about by each and every individual to make sure that the awareness is deep-rooted. Otherwise, we are chasing a wild goose, because if people don't talk about the ills of our society, we find that they end up sweeping it under the carpet, which I feel is currently happening in our country. Some of the issues which are raised, normally they don't get to the conclusion we expect, and people are just quiet about it.
Thank you. Next question, Honorable Vanessa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mrs. Yuan, can you walk us through a situation where you had to deal with a case of corruption and how you dealt with it?
As an administrator in a teacher's college, I had quite a number of problems. Firstly, in terms of recruitment of trainee teachers, but I want to talk about the problem which I witnessed with lecturers who, for reasons of their own, got involved with the students so that they could go through the course without problems. It so happened that the so-called lecturer, but I think maybe I had two cases, was writing assignments for the student, and then having the other people in the department to mark the assignment, which was almost distinctive at the end of it all. So what happened is that the wife of the lecturer got suspicious about some of the books which were missing from her home, and she traced it because she knew maybe her husband was having this affair with the student teacher. So when it was brought up, I had to investigate because the handwritten exercise book was retrieved from this student, and I had to check with the head of department about who had authored the document. And it went on until we discovered that this other lecturer had written the initial draft for this student. At first, I had warned the lecturer, but he didn't take it seriously. So he thought I was trying to victimize him, and he started writing anonymous letters to the ministry about what was happening. But at the end of it all, when the investigations were done by the ministry, the lecturer was fired, and I had to suspend the student for some time to make sure that if she had repented, she would come back to college, because I didn't feel that the student had to be punished severely. But otherwise, this is one case I can outline. There were a few other cases, as I said, about recruitment of students. I think this was in the paper several times, where college principals were being accused of taking bribes. But in actual fact, I had to put a system in my own college where the recruitment of students were done by this committee, and it went on to a point where lecturers were actually bringing in monies which were being deposited by now knew that they could not take any bribes from aspiring candidates to be trained as teachers.
Finished?
Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Liwai. That ends your interview. You are excused.
Thank you very much, sir.
You can take the bottle of water with you.
Thank you. I was getting thirsty.
You can take it. Take the bottle of water with you.
I'm just looking for my handbag.
The next candidate is Mr. Charles Dube.
Mr. Charles,
Thank you. Morning, Mr. Dube.
Morning.
Welcome to the interview. You are expected to be concise in your responses, but at the same time be substantial. Don't dwell too much on your background because we have your CV, and the interview is for 20 minutes, during which time you are going to be asked 6 questions. The first question is, what is your understanding of corruption?
My understanding of corruption
You might
my understanding of corruption is when you do things which are unethical, when you give favors when there are supposed to be no favors, when you do things not the right way.
finish. Second question. What is your understanding of the independence of Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission and the performance of its constitutional mandate?
My understanding is that they are in the pursuance of their duties, not to show favor whether to political parties or to other individuals or those in authority, their ministers or members occupying any public role.
You finished? Third question. What recommendations would you make to the government to enhance integrity and accountability in order to prevent corrupt practices in the public and private sectors?
there are two ways. There is a way in which you could wait until corrupt acts are done and then you get all the evidence. But my approach would be that I would rather we invested more in strengthening our institutions. In other words, I would rather you put more effort in relating with the legislature in terms of coming up with the right legal, the right laws. In fact, corruption should be handled in such a way that it is never profitable. Anybody who engages in corruption must find themselves in such a way that if they are caught, they know that they are not going to benefit from the process of corruption. At the same time, we must be able to come up with measures which make it more difficult to get into corrupt practices. And we must strengthen our institutions rather.
Thank you. Next question is Honorable Chombo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Dube. Having demonstrated knowledge of ZAC and your expected role, what do you hope to do differently? Thank you.
Like I indicated in my earlier.
Just a minute. There's one more question from myself. Just want to be clear. You answered the question on the independence of Zimbabwe and corruption.
Yes, I did.
Yes, it did.
All right, thank you. Proceed. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Dube, having demonstrated your knowledge of ZAC and what you are expected in your role, what do you hope to do differently?
Like I indicated in my earlier answer, my emphasis would rather be more on prevention. We should be in a position we should not wait until they are caught in the corrupt acts. We should be able to preempt acts of corruption by taking, enough preventive measures. We should also do enough. I've noticed that they were, in terms of their composition, they've got something like 8 committees or so. They've divided these committees into people who are into investigation and people who are more into how ZEC itself is being run. I would rather, we put more emphasis on dealing directly with the corruption more than they are doing with the administrative.
Next question, Honorable Dr. Gumbo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Dube, why do you think you are the best candidate to be appointed as a commission?
I have, number one, the advantage that I got into investigations before I even went to school about it. I was born in a business family. By the time I was age 12, I could do double entry without knowing what accounting was all about. I could go and do investigations at family shops and be able to discover things were going wrong before I even knew what auditing was. When eventually I went to university and did accounting and trained in auditing, it was as if what had been otherwise coming through native intelligence was now becoming more or less formalized. And then I got into government, where I worked first as an economist, but eventually as an accountant responsible for government, for donor aid and what have you. And I started teaching, developing modules for government departments to do with donor aid accounting, procurement, and so on. And then I moved on to government accounting systems, where I was now, sitting, for instance, on the government tender board where I was contract chairman between 85 and 86. And I was responsible for producing even training manuals which were being used by ZIPAM, Zimbabwe Institute of Public Administration, and public service training. I was able, while I was still in charge of government accounting systems, to go in and go through trainings which the ordinary clerks went through, having gone in at a more senior level. And I was responsible for, the accounting officers, what we call accounting officers manuals. I was responsible for that. Wherever there was a government asset, I was supposed and expected to, to have a say in terms of how those such things were being run. So my major advantage really to the community, to the ZAC Commission, that I know how government systems operate. So I'll be able to, to bring people. I'll be able to bring in hands-on experience in terms of how government operates, and then you have the advantage of knowing how you have the advantage of having been trained in auditing and all this kind of stuff. I also worked at senior level with both the private sector and the private sector, whereupon I have worked in. I've acted as finance manager, as general manager, finance manager corporation. I've sat on the board of NGOs and so on.
Thank you. Next question, Honorable Mzuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, Comrade Dube, who are the key stakeholders in the fight against corruption in Zimbabwe? How would you collaborate with them as a commission?
I look at the legislature, the people who make the laws, and then I also look at I look at the law enforcement agents, which includes, the judiciary. Those are the main actors in terms of fighting corruption. And in terms of collaboration, we should be in a position to give feedback to the legislature in terms of the laws which will help in terms of preventing corruption. And then on the judiciary, and when I talk of the judiciary, I'll probably include the administrative, which includes the Accountant General's office. We will need to, to come up to relate in terms of giving feedback to the Accountant General's office in terms of, on how procedures and all these other things could be changed and adapt to combat corruption.
Thank you. That is the end of the interview. Thank you very much once more for coming. Next candidate is Dr. Mabel Ongwe. Dr. Mabel Ongwe. Good afternoon, Dr. Ongwe, and welcome to the interview.
Good afternoon.
Yes, if you could answer your questions concisely and substantially. Expected to answer 6 questions. The first question: what is your understanding of corruption?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My understanding of corruption is when people engage in behavior that is detrimental to society. Whatever behavior you would look at it, that's how I look at corruption.
Also?
Oh, you want me to go? Because I thought you said you have 6 questions.
Yes.
Okay. So, to me, the way I look at corruption is a form of a disease. It's a disease that is short-term and can be long-term, depending on how you look at it. And the way I look at corruption is how that disease affects society. And in most cases, that disease has affected people's livelihoods, people's political issues, and economic issues and social issues. So that's how I look at corruption and how it affects communities and society.
Thank you. Second question: what is your understanding of the independence of the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission in the performance of its constitutional mandate?
Well, when we talk about on paper, it looks like it's supposed to be an independent institution, which is supposed to report to a parliamentary body like you have here, and is supposed to be able to investigate various cases, various issues that come from society, and investigate without favor, whether it's political, whether it's economic, whether it's social. So that's how I look at it. It's supposed to be independent of all the other factors that could affect the independence of such an institution.
Thank you. Next question: what recommendations would you make to the government to enhance integrity and accountability in order to prevent corrupt practices in the public and private sectors?
Firstly, it's not just public sectors or private sectors, but you also should include also civil society and other institutions beyond those two in terms of how to prevent corruption. So the way I look at it as government is this has to be looked at in terms of 2 phases. There's a short term where there are low-hanging fruits, which you want to quickly gather and enjoy. What could you do as government in terms of how do you ensure that the institutions that institutions that work around corruption, meaning the police service, the correctional
people who investigate are empowered to do that, and also there is less interference in those people executing their work. And in fact, when you look at it in terms of that short-term kind of low-hanging fruits, you also have to look at it from a long-term perspective, where you want to start it with institutions from as low as, if it's in education, as kids in kindergarten. How do you ensure that kids in kindergarten are capacitated to know what corruption is all about, what that entails? And that should go all the way to tertiary education, where people talk about it. And other institutions, meaning traditional institutions, we need them to be discussing issues of corruption. And how do you ensure that your norms and values change over time? Because over the past 30 years, our norms and values have changed. People practice engage in corrupt activities without knowing that they're corrupt activities, because they've been doing it for so long that the norms have changed and the values have changed. The Ubuntu kind of concept is no longer there. People want to do something for something. Those take time. It's a long-term kind of mindset change that needs to be happening within communities, within people themselves. So government has to engage. It's almost like a cancer. A cancer in the body is a long-term process, but short-term you want to just give the person the drugs, the painkillers. But long-term, the person needs to have a healthy body, needs to exercise, needs to eat right. So that's the long-term kind of thing, what you do with corruption, and how do you do it on a long-term, sustained, and it has to be sustained. And when I'm talking about this, generally we always think a few people have been appointed to be anti-corruption commissioners and solve a nation of 14 million issues. You cannot. You need to build sustained institutions that handle issues of corruption. So it means within public, private, non-governmental organizations, farmer organizations, all those institutions need to ensure that they handle issues of corruption, because 4 of 9 people are not going to do that.
Thank you. Next question. Honorable Zoe.
Thank you.
Your mic, please.
Who are the key stakeholders in the fight against corruption in Zimbabwe? How would you collaborate with them as a commission?
For me, everyone is a key stakeholder. The media is a very key stakeholder because they have investigation kind of properties which they have, and they need to be engaged on a different scale. You need to engage research institutions. This country has not done a lot of research, painful research on the cost of corruption on various sectors, cost of corruption on the transport sector, on the energy sector, on various situations. So those are stakeholders that need to be engaged. And we need really good action-oriented research that allow us then to be able to make policy changes. And some of the stakeholders include, parastatals, government institutions, private institutions. A lot of people always think corruption is only happening in the public sector. It happens actually in a large scale in the business sector, but the business sector is smart enough in that they pass it on to the consumer. So then you don't talk about it as much, or you don't see it as much. And in the NGO sector, the last 5 years, the last 20 years, the NGO sectors have gotten something like $2 to $3 billion, but you don't see it changes in communities. Just people are poorer than they were. So you say, where is the money going to? It's going to a few people who then use it for their own personal benefit. And unfortunately, nothing is done to them. So there are lots of key stakeholders who have all a stake. I always think corruption issues are everybody's issue. So you cannot identify a specific individual or institution, because as long as you do that, then it's always easy 4 years later when you're no longer a commissioner to say they didn't do anything. When in fact the 4 people, 5 people, 9 people cannot change anything, but what you can do is how do you change institutions and the way people work. So it's about institutional transformation that's needed when you're talking issues to do with anti-corruption. If you don't, and the mindset change, and our people as Zimbabweans need to change that kind of mindset. Knowledge harvester. So what I believe in is gathering information and knowledge which make people change and transform themselves. So my role is how do we harness knowledge on a short-term basis and on a long-term basis to transform people and institutions in how do you change yourself from seeing anti-corruption as only for the police force or for the judges, for the courts, or for the Anti-Corruption Commission. You need to think about it beyond those kind of institutions, or we'll never really get to the heart of what is the problem in our country. So that's what my role will be. I'm a trained development person. I've traveled all over the world. I've traveled all over the continent. That's what got me interested in this. I've traveled in Africa. Some countries were way behind us, but now we are worse off than other countries. Other countries are 20 years ahead of us now, and yet we were 30, 40 years ahead of them. So as a development practitioner, I just thought, why should I keep on helping other countries when I cannot help my own country? So that is what my interest is.
Thank you. Next question. Honorable Mohali.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Doctor, what measures do you propose to enhance the capacity of the Commission in the conduct of its work?
I think the kind of measures I would want our Commission to have is, our Commission needs to learn from some of the successes that are happening within the continent itself. Nigeria, we used to laugh at Nigeria. We used to think people would get bribes for $5 and yet now they are on the forefront in terms of combating issues to do with corruption. They have whistleblowing issues. They brought in an institution where they reward people who are able to do whistleblowing. They're able to arrest. They're able to bring back some of the resources and put those resources towards development. I would love to see one day in Zimbabwe where a bridge has a notice which says built by money which was recovered. That's what I want to see. I want to see a road, a highway, which tells me that thanks to the recovered resources, we are able to build this kind of highway. That's what I think we should be able to do.
Thank you. Next question. Honorable Commission. How come?
Mr. Speaker, you called the Honorable Jury twice.
Yes,
They are
it
the
is.
same question.
They asked the same question.
Thank you. Thank you. You are finished.
Thank you.
The next interviewee candidate is Mr. Kashangura. Before you bring Mr. Just a minute. Honorable members, panelists, and members of the Committee on Standing Rules and Orders, and members of the press, I noticed that when someone seems to be doing very well, you start nodding your heads. Please don't nod your heads, because that's body language. You are encouraging or you may be discouraging. So just maintain your composure. Even if it is sweet music, maintain your composure. Next. Just a minute. Oh, yeah. Yeah, 1 minute. One panelist is not in.
Okay, if you grow old, things don't so you go to bear with me. No, it's the weather.
That's beyond you.
The weather is beyond me, and report and the weather are not
Right. Mr. Kashangura. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Kashangura, to the ZAC Commission interviews. Please answer your questions as concisely as possible, but don't kick out the substance in the process. Avoid giving us your background because we have your CV. answer 6 questions in 20 minutes. The first question is, what is your understanding of corruption?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that question. My understanding of corruption is that corruption is a dangerous and cancerous problem in this country. And fighting corruption needs everybody to participate in fighting corruption in this country. Corruption has got its own effects. One, on the economic side, it retards economic growth. Secondly, it affects government expenditure. Thirdly, it affects the poor. So corruption